Hi, welcome to Your Future, Your Finances. We're continuing our conversation with Rick Todd, business and estate attorney in Columbia, Maryland. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we were talking about the documents that one should have. Let's say they've made that decision. They have these important legal documents. What do they do next with them?
Well, they need to store them. There's three basic options you have. So you can go to your Register of Wills, which will be in the county you reside in. And you can register your will. You don't need to be dead to register your will. You can register it before you die. And there's a small fee for that. But the problem with that is they only take the will. They're not going to take the other documents that are part of your estate plan, like your powers of attorney and your advance directive. So you also could put it in a safe in your house, but you need to be aware of fire risk, and you need to position the safe in your house so that in an area where it's less likely to be hit by fire. And it should be bolted to the ground because if a thief were to come into your house, they're going to take the safe.
Yeah.
And that makes it more difficult if it's bolted, obviously. A third option, which I prefer, is a safe deposit box. Safe deposit box is something you can distribute keys to other people who you trust to have access to that box if you become sick and or pass away, and they can grab the box and then take it to the Register of Wills. And in talking to bank managers, a safe deposit box is really, it's run in such a way that it's highly unlikely that it'll be lost or destroyed, like it would be if you keep it in your home. And I think the big fear is that as you get older, you may suffer from dementia, have some sort of mental illness, and misplace your documents. And that's a common problem.
Yeah. So transitioning to business. So let's say you're running a business and you have employees and so forth, and they come to you. What are the basic things that you help them protect or document?
Well, people who own businesses need to be aware that they can write a sort of business will. They're called buy-sell agreements. They need to plan, and this even goes outside of estate planning, but it's a conversation. They need to understand their business will live beyond them, or they may wish for this. And they need to find a successor to manage it. And their children may not be qualified. That's not to say their children aren't smart enough to, but their children may have other interests. And it may be better to talk to someone about buying the business if you become incapacitated or die, and then the money from that sale will go to your heirs, and those agreements are called buy-sell agreements, and they're very common. And I think it's just important for the owner of a business to have discussions with their employees and other management about the transition when they are no longer there, and to even if that means putting a child in place, an adult child of their own in place to be a manager, or someone else. That's the type of conversation that needs to happen. And I think a lot of business owners are too busy dealing with day-to-day management to understand that and deal with that.
So a buy-sell is like a business will. I like that term.
It's a business will, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good way of describing it. And that would take into account them leaving the business to their kids, or in the scenario of wanting to sell the business.
Right, exactly. It will cover all the bases.
Okay, good. And then you deal with real estate law. So what does that typically entail?
Well, I do a little bit of it. In my, I live in a bedroom community in Columbia, and I feel that the big industries in a bedroom community are living and dying and buying your and selling a home. So I like to be available to help people review their contracts. If they're selling it on their own without a real estate agent, I can draft a contract for them, and they can save a lot of money doing that as opposed to going to a real estate agent. And in terms of retitling deeds, I can also do that type of thing.
Retitling deeds, okay. So like the trust thing, if you had to put some property into a trust, that would be retitling the deed.
Yes, that's possible. I mean, there's issues with that. If you're dealing with a lender, they may not be as agreeable to retitling it. And that's another issue with using trusts and transferring property into trusts.
Okay, good. So another area of law and planning that you deal with, which is very interesting, is the concept of retiring overseas, which I hear come up a lot, or at least people consider it. And
Right.
you actually wrote a book on the topic.
I wrote a book on the topic because I used to live overseas. It's not as common in this country as it is in some other Western countries, like Great Britain. It's very big among British to retire overseas to save money. For Americans, saving money in retirement by moving to a cheaper location, it doesn't. There are places within the United States that are very affordable. So, and you have Medicare, and overseas you obviously will not have Medicare. But living overseas is, you have to approach it from the standpoint that you're not necessarily going to save money. Even if you move to a poorer country, you're doing it to be in an exotic location, something that's different.
Can you move there like part-time and have some of the advantages and things like that?
Sure. And there's there's the term snowbird. Canadians use it a lot as well. If you live in a cold climate, you're going to ditch the winter and move south and then move back when it gets warm again. I think that's very common. I think that's a very good solution. My book goes into detail about the risks of moving to unstable countries, where it's affordable, but with that affordability comes instability and sometimes danger.
Yeah. So what's the name of the book?
The Financial Guide to Retiring Abroad.
To retiring abroad. Fantastic. Okay, good. So what are some things to think about? Because you said Medicare you can't use internationally.
No, you can't.
So healthcare is probably a major...
Healthcare is an issue, but healthcare, generally speaking, is very affordable overseas, even in expensive countries like in Western Europe. What you can get, though, is you can get your Social Security payments. And in fact, many countries will not give you a retirement visa without proof of income. And you prove that you have income by showing them that you're a recipient of Social Security.
Okay, good. All right, well, if somebody's considering this or have any questions regarding getting their documents done, which they definitely should do, how can they get in touch with you?
My website is probably the best way, columbiaestateplanning.com.
Fantastic. All right, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it. You're watching Your Future, Your Finances.